Hi, I'm Troy Alexander for Child Support Game Over. We're going to go to Child Support in God's Kingdom Part 3. And in Part 1 and 2, I explained how there is a battle going on between two kingdoms, between the large G God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of the Bible, and the small g God, who is known as Helios, Kronos, Abaddon, Apollyon, Baal, and we are calling him Saturn. So there are also, in part 2 we covered, there are a people, a seed of the false god Saturn. There is a seed of the true God, the God of the Bible, and there is a seed of the false god Saturn. And these people we identified as the Edomites. And now what we're going to look at is, in part 3, how each god has a law and each god has a court. And there is atonement for sin according to each god. In the God of the Bible, there was the temple. And in the temple, Moses originally sat as the judge. And in Baal's court, there is a temple. We're going to start in John 19:13. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he brought Jesus forth and sat down in the judgment seat in a place that is called the pavement. So here we have Pilate sitting in the judgment seat, or in court. He is holding court. In Matthew 23, verse 2, saying, the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Jesus is explaining to the multitude how these vipers, these snakes, the scribes and Pharisees, are sitting in the judgment seat, the judge's seat of Moses, that they are holding court, that they are ascribing the atonement for sin. In the Old Testament, there came a time when Israel went whoring after other gods, and they set up places called high places, a house of high places. In 1 Kings 12:31 we see, and he made an house of high places, and made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not the sons of Levi. The Levites were the tribe that was given the job of administering the government, and then the children of Aaron were the children of the priesthood. But here here is a bit of confusion. People think of these in just religious terms, that these are maybe false churches being set up. But it's more than that. The church was a place, or the temple was a place to worship God, but it was also a place to make atonement for sin. And there the judge would tell you what you needed to do to make atonement for sin, what sacrifice you needed to make. And that is what has come from this, that there were other laws being put into place outside of God's laws, and these low people, these low quality people, were being made priests, or you could even say judges, and were holding court. We'll go to 1 Kings 13:33. After this thing, Jeroboam returned not from his evil way, but made again of the lowest of the people priests of the high places. Whosoever would, he consecrated them, and he became one of the priests of the high places. If we go to 2 Kings 17:9, and the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord their God, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. We are having that today. It's like almost every large municipality is building in the main square a courthouse. And there are being set up in our country high places in all the cities. And people are going there, and court is being held, and the judges are ruling, but they are not following the laws of the Bible. They are following their own God's laws. They are following Saturn or Baal's laws. And we're going to continue, go to 2 Kings 2:23, 19, and you can see this is nothing new. And all the houses also of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger, Josiah took away and did them according to all the acts that he had done in Bethel. And he slew all the priests of the high places that were there upon the altars, and burned men's bones upon them, and returned to Jerusalem. So you can see there was a battle for the hearts and souls and minds of people, even in the Old Testament. These high places were actually places dedicated to their god Baal. They have built also the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal, which I commanded not, nor spoke it, neither came it into my mind. And in Jeremiah 32:35, and they built the high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire unto Moloch. Moloch was another name for this god, Saturn, and he is represented by an owl. If you look on the dollar bill in the corner, you will find an owl neatly hidden. If you look at the layout of the streets in Washington, D.C., you will see the outline of the owl of their god Moloch. If you go to Bohemian Grove, you'll find a giant stone Moloch statue where they make sacrifice. If you look at the sacrifice that happened at with the school children, what was the name of that? But they held up a little picture that the girl drew of an owl, their god Moloch. It was a symbol saying this was our doing. Newtown, it's a bed of Satan worship if you look it up. And their guy on TV, Anderson Cooper, held up the picture of the Moloch owl to tell those in the know just what was going on. This was a sacrifice to their god Moloch. In Ezekiel 36:1, also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, mountains being nations. The house of Israel became a group of nations after the Assyrian captivity of 724 BC. The house of Israel first was settled into the northern regions of Assyria as a buffer against their enemies. And later those people migrated from the Caucasus Mountains there on the northern regions of Assyria through the Caucasus Mountain Pass into Europe and were called Caucasians. That is why the Old Testament was translated into Greek, the Septuagint, from the original Hebrew. That's why when Jesus was born, he spoke Greek, not Aramaic. That's why the Old Testament and New Testament was preserved in Greek, because the Greeks were from the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord God, because the enemy hath said against you, Aha, even the ancient high places are ours. The enemy, the evil seed that was planted, the enemy hath said against you, even the ancient high places are in our possessions. The courts are in their possessions. Therefore prophesy and say, Thus saith the Lord God, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side. And they've used the courts to do this, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen. Is our country going to the heathen? And ye are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are an infamy of the people of the world. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, you nations of Israel, hear the word of the Lord God. Thus saith the Lord God to the mountains, the nations, and the hills, to the rivers and the valleys, to the desolate wastes, and to the cities that are forsaken, which became prey and derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. Who has done this against us? Idumea. And you're probably asking, what is Idumea? Google search Idumea. It is Edom. It is these people I spoke about in part 2, the Edomites, who have taken over the courts, who are serving their god Baal, their god Saturn. It is these Edomites who have made you a prey, who are destroying you, who are sacrificing your children in these courtrooms and stealing your parental rights. We're going to go to Ephesians 6. For we wrestle not against, this is Ephesians 6:12, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. This is not some spiritual la-la land up in the heaven, which your preachers, your false preachers are telling you. This is, we are in a war against these Idumea, these Edomites, who are the rulers of the darkness of this world, who are spiritually wicked and sitting in the courtrooms. They are using the courtrooms. They are the lawyers. They are making food out of you. They are consuming you and your children. They are making you sacrifice your children in their courts. That wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand, stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, above all taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. What are the fiery darts of the wicked? It is slander. Man's kingdom, the kingdom of the Edomites, will take you into their media and slander you. Now, before I go further, I want to explain something to you. Your preachers, your false preachers, who are preaching another Jesus, are telling you that this is a spiritual battle only, that this is all spiritual armor and spiritual weaponry, and that is a crock. Paul was quoting Isaiah 59:17, and he put on righteousness like a breastplate and a helmet of salvation on his head, and he put on garments of vengeance for clothing, and wrapped himself with zeal as a mantle. According to their deeds, so he will repay wrath to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies. To the coastlands he will make recompense. This is not just a spiritual la-la, go to church once a week and pray. This is not that kind of battle. We'll go to Acts 7:43. Yea, ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch. He is speaking against these evil ones, and the star of your god Rephaim, figures which ye made to worship them, and I will carry you away unto Babylon. Our fathers had the tabernacle of witness in the wilderness, as he appointed, speaking unto Moses, that he should make it according to the fashion that he had seen. Let's go back to this tabernacle of their god, Moloch, that owl god that loves child sacrifice. What's happening to your children when you're dragged into their court? And the star of their god, Rephan. Let's see what the star of Rephan looks like. Right here, people. The star, quote unquote, of David is the star of Rephan. This is their symbology, the six-pointed star. And you're going to see this in the next part 4 about the number 6. I'm sure you've heard of 666 being the number of man and man's kingdom. This is a symbol of their God. So thank you for watching. That's end of part 3. If you like this, please click like, please subscribe, and I hope to see you in part 4.